many chances should a person get before action is taken on the job? A teacher in our region is warned, reprimanded, and suspended over and over, yet he's still listed on the school roster. 13 News reporter Jesse Schaefer joins us with more on her investigation into this story.
We are so fortunate in our region to have thousands of hardworking, dedicated educators, people who would do anything to ensure that students are receiving the best possible schooling in a safe environment. Michael Birch, some would say, is not one of those teachers. Thanks to a suspension order that we obtained from the West Virginia Department of Education, we're now able to show you what a number of his former students have said is the track record of abuse and intimidation that Birch has inflicted upon students for 20 years. Despite a one-year suspension handed down in November of last year, Michael Birch is still listed as a science teacher here at Roane County High School. This is a 22-page suspension order. The document outlines the allegations against Birch going back 2 decades. That information used in a hearing back in July. It lists the petitioner as the West Virginia Department of Education. These photos of Birch came from yearbooks students gave us over the course of our investigation. The allegations against Michael Birch date back to 1999. That year at Winfield High School, the suspension order states his victim goes to the trash can in his class to spit her gum out. She said Birch smacked her on her back, grabbed her shirt with his fist, yanked her up, and spun her around. Birch is suspended for 2 days. 2011. Students in his class say Birch showed them a photo of a nudist colony that he had visited in Germany. Birch told investigators that it was a, quote, multicultural teachable moment. He is suspended for 5 days. 2016, a student reports Birch grabbed her scarf, pulled it over her head, and pretended to choke her. That investigation leads to subsequent interviews with students. In those interviews, students say Birch makes a number of sexual innuendos in class. He's suspended this time for 10 days. 2017, a 17-year-old claims Michael Birch placed his hands around her throat. Another victim said he pulls her hair. An arrest warrant is issued for him the next month, and he's arrested for battery. But the suspension order states that charges were dropped because Roane County High School's school resource officer said, quote, it wasn't going to go anywhere and it would be drug out for a long period of time. The details in the order about a female victim who goes by KH are perhaps the most disturbing. Over the course of 3 years at Roane County High School, beginning in 2014, she claims Birch, quote, picked her up upside down with her face in his crotch and her legs over his shoulder, dumping her into a trash can head first. Grabbed her by the wrist and pulled her against him, crossed her arms around her chest, held her with his back against him, leaving bruises and red marks. She claims another teacher saw and did nothing to stop it. She said Birch took photos of her without her consent, joked about the, quote, capacity of her throat and what her mouth could do, said he made every lesson sexual. As for the results of the hearing in July, after reviewing the history of Birch's behavior, in the end, the West Virginia Department of Education's recommendation included the following. His teaching certificates are to be suspended for 1 year. He must take 40 hours of professional development training. He's responsible for coordinating that training. And finally, he must apply to reinstate the teaching certificates after that year expires. When we first aired this story months ago, a number of Birch's former students, parents of former students, even other teachers reached out asking for us to tell the story. The vast majority were understandably afraid to speak on camera. Just 2 former students agreed to sit down with me. For the next portion of this special report, I'll bring you their story and the response that I was given about those years of alleged abuse from the West Virginia Department of Education. That's coming up tomorrow. Back to you.